I'm Sandy.
And I'm Jed. We are currently exploring the beautiful Olympic Peninsula in Washington State.
Our adventures this week are taking us to the Hoh Rainforest in Olympic National Park, the city of Forks, and out to see the beach at La Push.
Good morning from Olympic National Park.
So this morning we're going to be exploring the Hoh Rainforest section of the national park, and we just got here and we actually found a parking space, fortunately, but this place is packed already at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Super packed. Once again, the old adage of get here early is totally applicable to this park.
But none of that matters now because we're here, so we're going to get started. There are a couple nature trails here, so we plan on doing 2 of them. There's the Spruce Trail, which we're going to start with, and then we're going to check out the Hall of Mosses.
The Spruce Nature Trail is 1.2 miles long, and as we were coming up to the trailhead, we saw numerous signs about bear, elk, and surprisingly enough, it looked like a recent addition, cougars. Lots of cougar sightings in this area as of recent. There's no pets, and they advise to really watch your children when you're out here on these trails. Cougars typically won't attack an adult, but small children, pets, it's best to make plans for them ahead of time. So that's pretty cool. We just ran across some elk with some calves. The forest ranger came along and he said he was going to move them because elk with calves are pretty aggressive, so they didn't want them, trying to have to defend their calves with the amount of people on the trail. So he moved them off. Unfortunately, we didn't get any footage because he said he was going to move them in one direction and they ended up going in the other. They are wild animals. I mean, they're not trained, so it's not their fault. There are some massive trees here. As a matter of fact, you come upon a tree that fell down and you can see its massive root system with little trees growing out the top of it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so these trees are much like when we visited the redwoods. If you didn't see that video where we visited the Humboldt redwoods, go ahead and check that out. Much like the redwoods, because water is so plentiful here, they don't need to have really deep root systems, so that means when winter storms and high winds and things like that come through, they are much more likely to topple over because their root systems aren't very deep at all.
Which is surprising for such a big tree.
I know.
You would think they have like these massive deep roots, and they really don't. We've been noticing a lot of these trees. They are western hemlocks, and from first glance they look like they are just one solid tree. The seeds will kind of clump together and land in the same spot and grow in the same spot. So it's actually many different smaller trees that give the appearance of one larger tree.
So behind me you see a row of trees. So it's a row of Sitka spruce and western hemlocks back there. And the reason that they're in this row is because they were nursed by what's called a nurse tree. So a nurse tree is an old tree that's fallen, and as we talked about in some of our other videos, the forest reuses it and it uses it to feed and help other trees grow and flourish, thus nursing them. The reason you see these all here is because that's where the nurse tree was. You can't really see much of the nurse tree, maybe some remnants of what it was, but in its place, one nurse tree gave us all these beautiful trees.
We just spotted a massive owl in a tree. I probably would have passed by him if people weren't standing there staring at him. So when you come out here and walk, keep your eyes peeled because, yeah, the elk are easy to see, but the smaller things you really have to keep an eye out for.
So now that we have finished the Spruce Trail, we're headed over to the Hall of Mosses Trail. It's about 0.8 miles long, and it is probably the most walked trail here in the Hoh Rainforest section of Olympic National Park. But we're hoping to learn a lot about the different mosses and stuff that are here. So from what we read, this is like one of the oldest, most stable sections of the rainforest here.
So this is really cool. There's a ton of little spring-fed creeks running through the park. They are crystal clear. You can see the little fish swimming in them, all the types of grasses. I don't know if it's grass or moss that grows at the bottom, but it looks almost ferns, full of ferns. So on this trail, we haven't seen a lot of informational signs like the last trail, but massive trees, absolutely draped with moss. It's breathtaking, really. The thing that I can compare this the most to, if you've ever seen like Jurassic Park, it looks like an
dinosaur.
I mean, it looks like there should be dinosaurs here, honestly. It's like kind of a crazy Jurassic Park vibe. Massive trees and the haunting moss, and all of a sudden, Velociraptor. Or one of those.
It could happen.
It could. It could. If that happens, we team up with the elk.
Uh-huh.
We have a common
Our
enemy.
only chance.
Yeah, our common enemies. Now, when we make these videos for you guys, we want to be as thorough as possible. That's why I'm sitting inside of a tree right now. Well, actually, I'm under it. So a lot of these trees along this trail, they have these openings underneath. And how these form is that, remember those nurse logs we were talking about? So these trees will grow on a nurse log. When that log actually rots away, it leaves these spaces underneath. Pretty cool.
We have left the Hoh Rainforest and made our way up to the little town. Actually, they say it's a city, the city of Forks, Washington, home of the greatest vampire and werewolf rivalry in all of history. Okay, maybe it's not that great, but it is the home of Edward and Jacob, vampire and the werewolf.
Twilight, people. It's Twilight, okay? Stop dragging it on. Oh my gosh.
Dad loves Twilight.
She drugged me to 2 of the movies.
You got lots of popcorn for that.
I did, and that's the only reason why I went.
But anyway, we're in this little town and we're gonna stop by, I guess it's a visitor center over here. There's a timber museum, and then we might go on a little bit of a search for other vampire-y werewolf things. I don't know. Jed doesn't seem excited.
Or maybe a bar. Maybe I need a bar.
I'm leaving Jed at the bar and I'm going out looking for vampires and werewolves. Staying at night here, it's not safe.
One of the interesting things that I read is that people who are like super into Twilight are referred to as Twihards. Get it? Diehards, Twihards. The city of Forks is the setting for Twilight. However, the movie locations were primarily shot in Oregon and Canada. So in the same parking lot where this sign is, they have the Forks Chamber of Commerce, and out front they have 2 trucks. One is from the movie version of Twilight, and one is from the book.
That's exciting.
So inside the visitor center, they have little displays of the characters from Twilight. They also have an annual Twilight festival here. This year, apparently it's in September. They have a signed white coat that Dr. Cullen, I guess Edward's dad, is that Dr. Cullen? Yeah, it's got little fangs on it. I mean, I really don't know what to say about this. I mean, Sandy, do you have anything to add about like...
Not about the visitor center. I don't know, they're playing it up here and good for them because it's perfect for vampires here.
Well, it's actually sunny out right now, so, well, partly cloudy, I should say.
So they did have like a little story on the table, and it talked about what she did to come up with the idea of using Forks as the place that she wanted the book to take place, and that was because she did some research looking for the rainiest place in all of the United States. Olympic Peninsula is the rainiest place in all of the US, and so she then kind of like zoomed in and kind of looked at the little towns around, and Forks was perfect. And then La Push, which is just out to the coast, was also perfect, especially because some of the characters were inspired by some of the indigenous peoples. So I don't know, it's cool.
That makes it a little bit more interesting for me, honestly.
Twilight Town.
So for those of you who can't get enough Twilight,
we went to the little Twilight museum here in town. It's called Forever Twilight, and they have a bunch of the props from all 5 of the movies.
they have like a CGI wolf, they have books, what else did they have?
Lots of the costumes and other memorabilia. So it's a very small museum. It is free, it's donation only. That's kind of what keeps them alive. Just a tip, if you do want to come to the museum, currently they close at 4 p.m. and if you're not there by 3:30, you can't get in on a tour. So make sure you arrive by 3:30 if you really want to see the little Twilight Museum.
We were literally the last people in line. We had just barely made it.
3:29.
So Forks also has all kinds of stores and stuff that have memorabilia.
Stickers and t-shirts, like pretty much anything you want to find, you can find in one of these little stores if you are like super Twilight fan. I mean, I read the books, I enjoyed the movies. I mean,
You read the books?
Yeah, I did.
So if you're a Twihard, I feel weird using that term.
It's a weird term.
But if you are, Forks is definitely the place to see.
So we decided to start our morning off today with a little bit of a hike. We are out near the area called La Push, Washington, and we are on Second Beach.
Yeah, not the first beach, not this
Third Beach.
third beach.
The one in the middle.
There's probably a fourth beach out there somewhere too.
Yeah, there probably is. So this is a pretty easy little hike. It's 0.8 miles each way, so 1.6 out and back. But it takes you through the forest and you end up here on this beautiful beach. Even better this morning, we were worried that we weren't going to be able to see anything because of the fog, but it's actually really cool, the fog out here, because it's not so dense that you can't see everything, but it like gives it this, I don't know, how would you describe it? Like,
It's like a,
I don't know, it's gorgeous.
it's like a fantasy land.
But you can see the fog like blowing across the beach.
It's a little eerie.
Yeah, but beautiful, so beautiful.
Despite the hike, there is a good number of people here. It's almost low tide, and we've seen sea stars, sea urchins, barnacles, some kind of little flatfish. I don't know if it's like a baby flounder or halibut, but yeah, he just seemed to be chilling in the sand, and I mean, he didn't seem like he was in distress or anything, and I didn't want to move him just in case he was like, hey, I'm right where I want to be, especially since he hiked all the way down to the beach, you know? And we've seen at least 2 bald eagles here. But did you know you can also camp here? I would have loved to carry a tent down here and just spent the rest of my life amongst the sea stars and eagles. Sandy says I might have to leave for food, but I mean, that little fish over there, if you've never tried my sea star stir fry, oh man, that's not a thing. This video may be over, but our adventures in the Pacific Northwest continue.
So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and then hit that notifications bell.
And until next time, stay wonderful.
Call it a day.